Hello and welcome to this week's video. This is one that's been requested a fair few times. This is an old custom that I did. Obviously it's had a bit of a repaint. The main difference being the shoulders, because you can see they stick a fair bit further out than they should be. I also did the elbows and the hips. I'll go over some of the articulation later in the video. But we're going to be fixing some of that. I've had a lot of requests to kind of do a video covering how I did it. So this is also going to be a video upgrading it further to make it look just a little bit nicer than it currently does. So that's his forearm blade. I don't actually know what the proper name for it is. But I'm going to be taking some silicone putty here, which you can see me mixing up, because I want to cast a smaller version so that he doesn't look like he's already ready to stab someone. I also think personally that left hand should have been a fist, considering he has his right hand with the trigger finger for his gun. Left hand is also just an open, kind of relaxed hand. So he always looks kind of relaxed, so it would have been nice to have a relaxed version of the blade, essentially. That's what I'm going to be doing. I normally cut this kind of bit out, but then I also end up with questions about how I did the putty. So this is the full bit of literally me mixing until it's an even colour, or mostly even. You can see there's the odd swell here and there. Really not too bothered about this bit. This is just a simple little thing. Even if it doesn't cure properly, I personally am not bothered. Obviously you should mix it all the way through. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to do the tip of this blade and the base of the blade where it actually attaches to his forearm. And you'll see me here actually trying to figure out where I want that seam to be. So there's going to be a seam line with the way I do this. And I'd rather have it on the back where it's going to be less visible. So naturally you would kind of blend over that seam where the two bits of silicone are meeting. I'm gently pressing them together because if I do that, once it's cured, I can peel away and that will create a natural seam line that when I fill it with resin should hopefully want to go back into that sealed up position. So now I've done it to both bits. You can see there's the top and the bottom covered in that silicone. I'm going to be using fast cast. This stuff is very bad for you. It's carcinogenic. If you're going to be using it, gloves, respirator, outdoors, whole ventilation, you want as little of this in your lungs as possible, basically, or on your skin. You can see the brand and everything on it there in the bottle, but it's just called Fast Cast. It's 2-part resin. It's an equal mix, or at least the one I have is. And you can see here, this is how it comes out. I think there are some that aren't paintable. This one specifically is paintable Fast Cast. I didn't know there was a non-paintable version. But just doing a test fit here. Pegs in snugly. And because this is a high quality, this is essentially a plastic. It's not as fragile as I was expecting it to be. I thought it might snap trying to pull it out of there. I've had no issues with it so far, and I've kind of been treating it like it's a bit of plastic anyway. So now onto the actual figure. The main thing I want to modify are these shoulders. You can see they stick way too far out for him. At the time of doing this mod, I was, it would have been about 5 years ago, so I would have been 17. Quick maths. So I didn't really care too much about his proportions. I just wanted him to be better for stop motion. It's one of my few stop motions that actually went relatively viral. I think it was just called the Vibing Doomslayer, which really isn't the best of my animations, all things considered. He slam fires this shotgun 4 times at one point, and obviously it's a break action shotgun, so none of it made sense. Anyway, point is, it was made a very long time ago, and I want to fix his proportions a bit. You can see me here showing the drop down hips that I took from Thanos. And yeah, this is actually one of my favourite customs that I did in regards to upgrades and things. I did also, I think I cut a little bit out from where his knee bend is, so that his knees can get into more of a 90 degree, because I think they were a little bit limited as well. And I think I may have ground down a little bit of the material on his ankle so that it could rotate a bit easier. Yeah, these are Thanos' butterfly joints. I showed the sockets in the actual shoulder hinge area. And that's essentially all I did really, and then I kind of just used a Dremel, drilled out big holes that you can actually see there. I just pointed at my screen as if I was trying to show you something. So yeah, rotary tooled it out, filled it with hot glue, and just kind of wedged these joints back in. So I didn't do a test fit, I just kind of figured it looked good enough. And obviously, again, his shoulders are way too broad. So, taking out a lot more material there. Going to do the same to the other side. But here's just a comparison of how it looks now with, obviously, the arm that still sticks way too far out. And the arm that actually sits closer to the body and has more proportion to it. You can see the size of that gap there. And you would think that limits articulation a lot. I did go and grind out a little bit excess so that the butterfly joint still had a good bit of movement. But all I really needed from this was the bicep swivel and enough clearance for him to bring his arm in so that he could two-hand his shotgun. And you can see there, he's still obviously quite a big guy. I still think his shoulders are a little bit broader than they were when I first bought him. But they are much more in proportion now. Like, I think this is a pass in terms of his scale, really. There is still some gappage, but again, I wanted some range of movement in there. You can see he's got limited butterfly now. But he's still got that bicep swivel, which I suppose is a hidden bicep swivel, similar way to how SHF did it. Or exactly how SHF did it, because it's their joint that I stole. Yeah, so here you go. This is the whole point of it. I wanted his arm to be able to come up in front of him, which it could never have done before, because it was basically designed as a statue with moving parts. It wasn't a figure at all. And here you can see just the setup. I wanted to keep as much of this footage in as possible for you. But there you go. So this is something I wanted to be able to do from the beginning of owning this figure, which was the whole point of why I did the shoulder articulation to begin with. Now the next thing I want to do is redo this shotgun a bit. This is another thing I've had planned for about 5 years now. I literally made an adaptation for this around 5 years ago, which was this. This is literally just a metal chain that I had lying around and a bit of armature wire that runs all the way through each individual link. And I've always wanted to make the meat hook an actual like fireable grapple hook, which not a single 1/12 scale figure has done for Doom Eternal. I say not a single one, there's only two I think, and that's the Figma and this one. But yeah, they don't have interchangeable grapples where like the actual chain is launching. So I've had this sat around for literally 5 years in my fodder box. And I figured now's the time to actually go and use it. Now I say scalpel, I did use heat to do this. I went and heated this up with my heat gun, and it loosened the glue enough that I could actually just pull the whole bottom section off, because it is a separate part. But I will be using the scalpel to cut the actual two sections out of this now. This is a fresh scalpel blade, because I wanted to get a nice clean cut out of this. Do be very careful, I've cut myself way too many times on scalpels for it not to be an obvious danger at this point. So you can see there I've cut it along essentially the line where it would disconnect, and because this was just pulled out with heat, it is a friction fit back in, and there's no worry of that going anywhere, that's not going to fall out. And then same with this bit still fits in perfectly. Also not going to fall out anywhere. Unless you slam it on the floor, in which case the main bit still stays there, but the meat hook itself falls off. Yeah, like, it's not going anywhere, that thing is stuck. So now the next part I want to do is I want to get a drill, so that I can actually, or a drill bit I mean, that's roughly about the same size. Ideally you want to go a bit smaller so there is a friction fit. This is called a pin vise. This is basically just a handheld mini drill. No batteries, it's all manual. This is how one of these works. If you're wondering why I'm keeping so much footage in for this video, I want to see if YouTube prefers this. Mainly I want to see if the audience, like you guys, prefers this. But yeah, there you go. There's the holes drilled on each side. And then the wire can connect to both, and you've got this firing meat hook effect. Yeah, I just want to leave a bit more footage in, see if you guys prefer a meatier video, I suppose, as opposed to like the quick, to the point videos that I normally do. So So yeah, let me know in the comments if you prefer longer form videos than just the short, kind of snippy ones that I do. As you can see, I'm very happy with how this came out. This is exactly what I've been wanting to do. Again, for 5 years I've had this custom lying around, but never had the confidence to go and give it a full rework. The next thing I'm going to move on to is this lack of ab crunch. Which is insane, because he's got some good back movement for such a big character, but he doesn't crouch forwards. And this is the reason. For whatever reason, they've given them this like huge overcut at the front. Now, noticing there is actually scalpel marks already on this, so I cut this down at some point to get any movement, so there mustn't have been like any movement forwards at all. Now here is the actual SHF joint that I retrofitted into this. You can see the amount of super glue that's holding this thing in. But this is literally cut to fit. I think I probably would have used a coping saw at this point. I did not have the tools for this in my bedroom 5 years ago. And then here's the actual joint that it sockets into. This would have been the entire bit taken from the thigh as well of Thanos. Then I would have just probably used my rotary tool at the time, my Dremel, and just socketed the actual receiving end of that socket, I don't know, into that leg. It's easier to see than it is to explain, I think. There's too many sockets and too many balls for me to be trying to explain it all. But you can see I've ground some of that down as well now. And you really can't see much gappage at the front. There is obviously a little bit of gap, but I'd much rather have a little bit of gap at the front of his torso and get some movement out of him. Because now you can see he does crunch forwards a bit, and it's still not much. Like, there's still like minimal crunch going on there. And if we go back, there's loads more. And now, because I've taken that extra material out, there's a huge gap in the front of him. But odds are I'm going to have him crunch forwards more than he's arched back, so I'm fine with this. Now the next thing I want to do, his colours are very toyetic. I haven't really, I say repainted at the very beginning of this video. I didn't really repaint this. I painted areas that weren't painted, so like the orange bits, the gunmetal that you can see on his legs weren't painted, the gunmetal outlines around the green. I didn't touch up any of the green or anything. It's just the oranges and the beiges and like the reds that I did, and the silver effect. Not silver effect, that dry brushing was already on the figure, sorry. The gunmetal areas I did. But yeah, I never really touched the rest of this figure, and I'm not a big fan of how kind of dead the brown looks. So when I paint this part, which you can see is the retracted blade, I'm going to be painting the whole figure. These are the paints I use. I start off with this Rune Fang brown. I don't actually know what that is. Again, I've covered it in paint. So if anyone knows what colour that is, that'd be great, thank you. This is a wash. And I've also got the black wash, which I only use on the blade, I don't use it anywhere else. But I end up changing it out for, like brown, I think I change out for Rhinox hide. I'll show it anyway, I'm sure. But that there is my dry brushing brush, and then this is my more like detail one, which is the one I'll use for repainting the brown on the blade itself. There you go, Rhinox hide, that is the one I used. And there you go, that's that colour. It's a little bit too dark, surprisingly. The other brown was a bit too light. Yeah, this is just this wash, perfect, so glad I showed it, I completely forgot what wash I'd used. And I use it on the brown, I give it a wash over the green and then kind of wipe the excess off. And I've given it a matte coat with matte lacquer high coat. You can see the difference here. I'm very happy with the more like saturated colour on the right than the kind of toyetic colours on the left there. So yeah, this was all done and then matte coated, except for the visor was matte coated with high coat matte lacquer. I don't show it in this video, but here, this is me telling you it's matte coat, matte lacquer by high coat. And you can see there's a little bit of discrepancy with the brown there. I'm not all that bothered because it is a different part of his costume, or his outfit I mean. That bright red bit on his helmet as well, I did repaint. I completely forgot to show that in the rest of the video. He had an inaccurate logo on his helmet. And as someone who has that logo tattooed on their arm, it was very frustrating seeing it not be correct on the figure. So I did go and repaint that. Now bringing the gun back in, which is completely finished. Obviously I've done the, I think I used the black wash on the gun as well actually, not just the blade. But yeah, very happy with how this bit's turned out as well. The wash just adds that little bit of detail, it kind of picks up all the crevices. And here we go. Very, very happy with how this guy turned out. And like I said, a lot of people have asked me to do this video. I've been wanting to do this video literally for 5 years. That's when I initially made this custom. But yeah, over the moon with this guy. He is going straight back up on the display now that he's out of the box and he's been fixed up. Also, crucible wise, I'm fully aware that Mcfarlane already have a crucible. That's why I've not made one in the beginning of this video. I also have a 3D file to it, which you can find on Thingiverse if you search Mcfarlane scale crucible Doom Eternal or something. It'll be there as well. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed it, let me know what you thought. Long video, short video, what your preferences are, what you think of the custom overall. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in next week's video.